Joining us, Jayan Chaudhary of the RLD, Kaliket Singh Dio of the BJD, and of course of the Congress, Mr. Rajagopal. Mr. Rajagopal, I want to start with you. The claim that the opposition is making is that this particular vote that is going to take place doesn't reflect consensus. Even if the Congress wins, takes it home, it doesn't mean that they've taken Parliament along.
As a ruling party, we can only try for consensus. The opposition is so adamant, even though they included in the manifesto in 2004, the BJP, where they said they are for FDI and retail, and now they turn around and try to be so adamant. What can we do? We have to do our job. We have to deliver. So we have to just go and govern. That's it. So whether there's a consensus or not, we have to go ahead and perform.
In the opposition benches all along, in the run-up to this session, it came down to whether there will be a vote. The government's called the opposition's bluff. Should you not now accept the verdict? And should you not consider that an obligation, therefore, to accept that there is consensus in FDI if it does go with the government today in the Lok Sabha?
Well, certainly a vote won by a narrow majority will be no indication of a consensus. And let's be clear, I mean, this vote would not in any way cause the fall of the government. It's not a money bill. The idea of insisting on a vote was that certain alliance partners of the UPA who claim to oppose the FDI would be forced to express their point of view in front of the public and by way of voting. And if they choose to verbally oppose FDI, yet walk out or then support the Congress government, then they have to bear the consequences of that in their own states. The fact that there are so many parties which are speaking at least against the issue of FDI in its current form is an indication that the Congress has not reached out to, forget the opposition, not even its own allies. It's not been able to win consensus around its own allies. The general fear of the allies is extraneous. It could be retribution of some kind of in another form. It could be the fact that this may lead to an actual election at some point of time. I think that's what's driving this vote rather than a belief in the issue of FDI.
So you're suggesting that the vote's manipulated, that the allies are being arm twisted. Is that the reason why, Jayan Chaudhary, your party is?
I'm going to speak on the issue today, and I'm going to speak my heart, and we are going to vote according to what we feel is right by the people of the country.
So what is your heart?
Encouraging investment in our rural markets is not a bad step, and so we are for it, and we will vote accordingly.
No, but we've just had the BJD coming out and suggesting, and this is not in isolation. This is the Bharatiya Janata Party, the left. They've all come here on headlines today and suggested that the allies have been manipulated. There are extraneous reasons behind this. False consensus. Is this true?
I think that's denigrating the institution of Parliament. People vote according to their conscience, according to what their constituents and their party demands them. And I don't think you should question a vote in Parliament. I don't think that's appropriate to do.
But you wanted a vote. Now why are there sour grapes?
There are no sour grapes.
Well, this is what you would...
We believe that the vote should have happened, and it has. And we believe the vote will express in some cases, the dual positions of various parties which are supporting the UPA.
But why did you need a vote for that? 4 days of Parliament held up because the opposition insisted that we must follow a debate with a vote. Today, the BJP, the left, perhaps even your party, have come out and said, look, we only wanted to expose the stands of the political party. A debate would have sufficed.
The 4 days of Parliament were held up not because the opposition was insisting on a vote, because the government was refusing to give a vote. I mean, this is a major change in the FEMA rule. It needs to go through a vote in the House. It should go through a vote in the House. It's a major change. There's no reason why it shouldn't go through. And let me also...
there's a contradiction there. Because the opposition could have moved at any moment to seek an amendment. Well, the prerogative would have been the opposition's, and the government would have had to comply because of the laws.
They hadn't tabled the ordinance on the change of FEMA rule by then. They were just talking about the issue of FDI. When the ordinance was tabled, then the opposition did move for amendment. The TMC moved for amendment.
Well, interesting, because the TMC, of course, claims that it was them who pushed this agenda all along, whether it was a vote of confidence or whether it came down to actually seeking amendments to FEMA. But let me come to you, Mr. Rajagopal. The opposition today accuses the Congress of a cynical politics, of saying they manipulated the vote. Do you see this as yet another attempt at changing the goalposts?
There's a question of manipulation. So all through the NDA and the allies have been opposing every move of Congress or UP alliance. Take it for instance the loan waiver scheme. When Chidambaramji announced that in the budget, that he's going to waive off 72,000 crores of farm loan, the entire opposition up in arms. They said, started shouting in the parliament, and Chidambaram was shocked. I'm giving a boon to the farmers, I'm coming to the rescue of the farmers, and I'm waiving off 72,000 crores. Entire opposition is up and shouting. So he said, do you want me to just take away what I promised?
Jan Chaudhary,
So that's been the start of the...
is this argument that the farmer is going to suffer, that he's going to be robbed, that there are going to be manipulations as far as his extortionist pricings are concerned valid?
See, first of all, the farmer has no choice today. You look at the sugarcane industry, the way it has developed and the way it has provided an alternative to the farmers. People have got employment and farmers have gotten a better realization for their price. There are problems. I mean, in Uttar Pradesh, even till today, the state advised price has not been issued. So farmers have to be active, they have to be organized, and governments need to play a role. The APMC Act needs to be looked at. A serious hard look needs to be given to that. And if intermediaries are reduced, if efficiency is brought into the supply chain, then both consumers and producers will benefit. It's a natural process.
It's a point, isn't it?
It's a good point, except that Indian corporates have been involved in the sector for the last 10 to 15 years. Where is the back-end investment? You've had FDI and wholesale.
Well, you need more investment. You need more investment.
There has been no investment. There has been no progress.
You need more money.
There has been no progress in the benefit, in the condition of the farmers as yet. And at the end of the day, I think the government, in its current form, has not done a good job with.
Well, we find it interesting because both the Samajwadi Party and others in the opposition, clearly in the opposition, have brought up this issue of the farmers not benefiting, of no investment. But yet, we've had indigenous retail chains up. People haven't found that a problem.
Well, I agree. The fact that the indigenous...
So are you agreeing to
retail
duplicity in the stand of the opposition?
Well, what I'm telling you is that despite Indian corporates being in the sector, we haven't had the benefit. So there's no reason to think that if you get FDI in the sector, the benefits will accrue.
My question is, FDI in agriculture has been allowed already. We have FDI in every other sector. Are you against foreign money? Are you looking at the color of the money that's coming in? Or are you against organized retail? Some of the arguments that were given yesterday about hypermarkets, supermarkets, they are actually against organized retail. So in that case, why allow domestic industry at all? And the reason why domestic industry hasn't flourished is because APMC Act in the states have been very constrictive. There's a model APMC Act. Several states still don't have that in place. So farmers are not allowed to sell their produce directly. Then which company can come and invest in that situation? When there is no cold chain, which company can come and invest?
So you're basically saying that the opposition is holding the flag up for the middleman.
Well,
that's what it translates.
That's what, of course, the UPA will say.
The parliament yesterday.
And the UPA, of course, holding the flag for the multinational, big multinational. But let's face facts here. I mean, except for certain administered products, there is a reasonable amount of trading on agricultural produce, at least in my state of Orissa. And I can tell you, despite FDI being allowed in back-end in the supply chain, nothing is coming. In food processing, nothing is coming.
Well, there you've heard it. Various political parties coming out. The Samajwadi Party still keeping up the suspense. Which way will they go? Well, all indications are that they might actually abstain. And if they abstain in the Lok Sabha, it's all over, because the government will sail through. But there is another dimension to this entire debate that's been unfolding. One of the reasons why both the Samajwadi Party, the BSP, and inside of the UPA, the DMK, have all come out and said that they're standing by the government is because they don't want communal forces to come to power. They don't want to destabilize, they don't want the RSS, etc., to take control of the polity. The BJD is a party which is very conscious of its own image. Is there merit in this argument?
Well, I don't think the issue of FDI has any communalism attached to it. I mean, this is an issue, and all political parties.
No, I think they're talking about the consequences of destabilizing the government.
Well, if they are so sure that the UPA would lose if there is an election today, then maybe there's some merit in their stand. However, it speaks of the fragile condition of the UPA itself. That means if the alliance partners don't have faith in the Congress coming back to power or the UPA coming back to power.
Well, some of these are parties, of course, that are supporting the UPA from the outside. Mr. Rajagopal, is that an indication of that?
See, that's been the stated policy and the stand all through. SP and PSP always said that we will not allow the government forces to take over. We'll do anything to keep them at bay. And that's what they've been doing on various issues. So on this issue also, either they will vote with the government or they'll abstain. And definitely we have the numbers. We'll get more numbers than the opposition whenever there's a vote today.
Okay, Jayan Chaudhary, I just want to make one specific comment here and solicit your opinion on it. The fact is that the opposition has come out and made this about numbers. They are the ones who made this about the numbers. The government has complied. From your point of view, if the government carries the day through the Lok Sabha and perhaps even in the Rajya Sabha, would you then suggest that there was consensus over FDI and retail?
You can't ask for a vote and then rubbish the vote. So I think parliamentary vote has a credibility. I would question the need for having a vote on an issue which is actually a policy decision. Tomorrow you might want to have a vote on appointment of CBI director. So what's going to be the consequences of this? But because it's far-reaching decision, because people have the right to know, I'm not against discussion. So therefore, I don't think it's correct to question the vote. Whatever happens in the vote, the government has prerogative to push through a policy decision.
I want to use the word that you used, retribution, in a different context. You talked about retribution and therefore pressures, extraneous pressures, which have forced some of these allies to vote along with the government. But there is a longer term perspective. When we talk about retribution, are we setting a bad precedent by constantly questioning executive decisions?
Not at all. It's the job of the opposition to question executive decisions. And in certain decisions, the opposition has the right to ask for a vote. Look, as far as the Biju Janata Dal is concerned, we had supported the TMC's no confidence motion. We had also put in an application under 184 and 193. The idea was that a debate is most necessary. Ideally, we would want it in the form of a vote. Now, we know the no confidence motion would not have passed because all the allies would have got together to say communal forces. One didn't think that they would attribute communalism to the issue of FDI and retail, but they seem to have found a new way to bend around
I'll
that
have to
too.
interrupt.